Most people think they have to have more confidence before they can be seen. They think that they have to have everything sorted out, all of their ducks in a row, and then they'll do the thing. They look at other people who are super successful or have what they want, and they're like, oh, they're so confident. I wish I had their confidence. Or sometimes we can be assholes and put them down, make excuses because the reality is so many times we don't actually know the person, but we create stories. It's so easy for them. They've got more money, they've got more support, they've got this, they've got that, they've got this. In this episode, I am speaking to why you keep waiting or making excuses about why you aren't ready, and why no matter how long you've been waiting, the day hasn't come where you've actually decided to put yourself first. The reason that you are still thinking and contemplating about what you really want, but you're not doing it. Before I dive into this, what am I talking about when I say be ready? I'm talking about bringing your vision to life, going all in on you, the thing that you keep dreaming about, the thing that keeps, annoyingly knocking at your internal doors, being like, can we just do this already? Whether that is coaching, writing a book, finding more joy, living life on your own standards, creating more space, going on more adventures, traveling more, breaking free from the limitations that you've put on yourself. Whatever it is, whatever your vision is, you're not doing it. The thing that you daydream about, the thing that you keep wishing and wanting, ultimately the thing that you keep waiting for. The longer you wait, the longer you're going to keep on waiting. Because in order to bring your vision to life, you have to do something about it. So let's dive in. Confidence is a result of action, not the prerequisite. I am sure that you've heard about this. I'm sure you've heard lots of people talk about it. Often we think that we'll start doing the thing when we're more confident. When we've got something in place, then I'll do the thing. That if then thinking. If this, then I'll do that. Whereas confidence actually comes from doing the thing. It's the age old analogy of riding a bike. You're not confident before you ride a bike. You get confident riding a bike because you ride a bike. Starting a business. You don't be confident in running a business before you've run a business. How can you be? How can you possibly be confident in running a business? If you want to be a coach, you're not going to be a confident coach until you start coaching. I reckon it took me years to be, well, I don't know, it's a bit of an interesting one. I would say years to be fully confident in the fact that I was a coach. But even now, there are times where I'm like, oh, I feel a little bit nervous about this one or whatever it is. If you're writing a book, you don't get confident writing unless you write, you know? For some strange reason, we've just convinced ourselves as a way of an excuse that we need confidence first. And it's the opposite. In everything we do in life, confidence comes from doing the thing. And then before the confidence comes, sorry, not before the confidence comes, before the action, because it's action, then confidence. Before the action, you need self trust. Self trust leads to action, leads to confidence. If you don't trust yourself, if you don't back yourself, if you don't go all in on you, even if you don't even know if it's possible, even if there's part of you that's sitting there going, oh, I really don't think you can do this, doesn't matter. You need to trust that this is what you're going to do. And at the end of the day, even if what you think you want is not actually what you want, that's okay. At least you gave it a shot. But if you don't try the thing, it is always going to sit there. It is always going to be a niggle. It is always going to be a thorn in your side. I've spoken about this with a lot of people where when we get a niggle, when we get an intuitive hit, you can't ignore it. Well, you can ignore it, but it doesn't actually go away. It doesn't go away until you try it. And sometimes you try it and you go, that's not actually, I don't really enjoy that. That's okay. You get to change, you get to pivot, you get to do something else. For some reason, we've convinced ourselves that if we decide to do something different, that must be the only thing that we ever do again. And that's just simply not true. You can do a million things if you want. You can do one thing and be brilliant at it and never do another thing. You get to choose. You are the creator of your life. The thing with trauma is that it teaches you that visibility isn't safe. If you think about any time you've been hurt, harmed, wronged, any time that you have experienced trauma, especially interpersonal trauma, there is an element of you being hurt. Often when we're vulnerable, we get hurt. Often when we're vulnerable or it's in vulnerable situations that we experience trauma. As a result of that, we tell ourselves that if I'm not vulnerable, if I don't stand out, if I don't put myself out there, then I can't get hurt. If I just stay small, if I stay quiet, if I stay unseen, if I wear this mask that where no one can see me, then that's safe. Sure, maybe. Well, the reality is you're not going to get hurt if you never put yourself out there, but you're also never going to be fulfilled because you're hiding. Hiding is safe. And maybe at one stage that was comfortable, but it's not comfortable for you anymore. Because if it was comfortable for you now, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. Right? And understanding and knowing that trauma teaches us that visibility isn't safe is a really, really powerful thing to know. Because every time you start hiding or playing things down or avoiding things or whatever it is, you can then see what you're doing. You can kind of call yourself out in the sense of, you know what, I'm just playing small because this thing scares me. And there's nothing wrong with being scared, but be scared and do it anyway. In relation to your nervous system, often we say that we're just waiting until I'm ready or waiting until I know more. I think that's a bit of an excuse. I think we try to convince ourselves that we don't know enough. But in actual fact, what's happening is our nervous system is trying to keep us safe. It's a nervous system strategy of playing small, like I just spoke about, but we're bypassing or avoiding that fact by saying that we don't know enough, or I've just got to research something, or I've just got to do one more course, or I've just got to do one more program, or I've just got to work with one more pro bono coach, or I just need some more money, or whatever excuse it is that you want to make. We make it about not having enough, not knowing enough, not being good enough yet. Where in actual fact, your nervous system is like, this is fucking petrifying, so I don't really want to do it. And when I don't want to do it because it feels unsafe, I'm going to throw a million different excuses at you because this feels way too stretchy for me. And there is, of course, always going to be this a fine line of what is actually unsafe for you and what feels uncomfortable but not unsafe. And I cannot tell you what safety looks like because that is individual to everybody. I used to, and this is a big part of my work and growth, I used to say I provide a safe space. I don't use that terminology anymore. One, it's not trauma informed, and two, how can I possibly know that? How can I possibly know that when I don't know what you've been through? You know? So, in terms of your nervous system, yes, there is going to be a big part, especially as we've experienced trauma, where there are some things that genuinely feel unsafe. And we need to train our nervous system and expand our nervous system into that discomfort, into that growth, into the unknown, rather than simply convincing ourselves that we don't have enough yet. The other thing I want to touch on today, every time you delay, every time you put off what you say you're going to do, every time you push back working on your vision, you're reinforcing the belief that you're not ready. When you continually reinforce that belief that you're not ready, you're then going to create other stories. Maybe I was never meant to do that. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe, maybe whatever, right? Our actions speak and our actions matter. It's the same as what we say to ourselves matters. If you're sitting there going, oh, I'm not ready, well, then of course you're not. Because your mind, your nervous system, your body doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's reality. So if you're being like, I'm not ready, this is dangerous, I can't do this, well, your mind's like, okay, cool. Well, if you can't do that, then we won't do that. Whereas if you're like, I'm going to do this, I can do this, I already do this, your body's like, sweet. And then there can be this little bit of a uh, balancing act where if you are really good at manifesting and self talk and that kind of thing, you can tell yourself that you are already this person, which is amazing. And then, depending on what it is, there is going to be an element of fear or resistance because it's new. And so, it's working with both the mind and the nervous system in that sense to bring that belief internally instead of just in your mind. These are the reasons, right? These are the reasons you keep waiting to feel ready because you think you need to be confident first. Well, no, you don't. You need to have self trust. You need to have self trust and then take action. Understanding you and your nervous system and why. The whys are so important. And I really struggle asking why questions because why questions are the hardest to answer. What, where, when, how, they're a lot easier logically, whereas why requires a lot of digging, a lot of going layer after layer after layer. And you need to understand your why. And if you don't understand your why, my advice would be to get a coach, get someone who can support you through that. Because so often, and this was true for me as well, we don't just know our whys. We don't know the reason why we feel a certain way or why we have a certain belief or story about ourselves. Sometimes we do, but I am yet to meet anybody who has just known that without having a coach in their corner, without having someone to support them, to ask them questions, to offer different perspectives, to go deeper. Because it's a really fucking hard thing to do. It's really hard to just go, like to dig beneath the surface. And often we don't, we know our reality and we know the stories that we've told ourselves. And so looking from different angles and perspectives often requires somebody else's support because you've lived and thought a certain way for so long. It can be really hard to then switch lanes, to then switch views. So if you don't know your why in terms of why does visibility feel unsafe, or what actually feels unsafe for you, or what does your nervous system fear, get a coach to support you. Right? Get someone to help you uncover that, because once you uncover that, then taking actions towards your vision is easier. And this, my friends, is exactly what we're dismantling, uncovering, connecting to, and looking at in the Unveiling. The Unveiling is a 3-week masterclass series where I run a masterclass every week over 3 weeks to really go deep on what needs to be reframed, what needs to be reclaimed, and what is going to bring you a sense of freedom. I have also decided, because I want this to be, instead of just you coming and listening to masterclasses, I want the Unveiling to feel like a coaching container. I want it to feel like you are fully supported in everything, to ask questions, to speak to each other, to support each other. So I'm also going to be offering support between calls where you'll be invited into a private space and offered support with any questions that you have around what we're exploring in the unveiling or anything else during those 3 weeks only. With the unveiling, for every masterclass, the people that show up live, there will also be each call. I will be offering one person a 45-minute one-on-one with me, bonus free, as a way of saying thank you for coming. Don't Something that I have realized recently is I've spent so long focusing on blocks and supporting people with their blocks and using that language. And I really want to move away from that. So for you, the invitation here is not to think of the unveiling, as focusing on your blocks, but thinking of it as what you need to move forward. You are going to finish the 3 weeks together knowing exactly what conditioning and beliefs have been running the show and what you need to do to change things, where you fall into the trap of procrastination, where you aren't living to your full potential, where you're abandoning yourself. And we look at all of these so you walk away feeling more confident, more grounded, more sure of yourself, more trusting of your decisions, with a clear view and strategy for what's next. I am really, really excited about the unveiling, and I think it's going to become a really big part of the work that I do. I think it is going to be a regular thing that just, is like that Kickstarter for people to step into action. So if you are ready for that, if you are like, you know what, I'm sick of just, getting in my own way, and you would like to be held and supported by me and the rest of the incredible community of people who are joining us, head to jackierogash.com/unveiling or click the link in the show notes below. You can read everything that's included and join up, join us, sign up, whatever you want to call it. But we kick off on the 11th of August, Tuesday, the 11th of August. So from Tuesday for the next 3 weeks, we'll be entering the unveiling. I would love to see you in there. And I'd also love to hear what you think of this episode, but also if you're game, what your excuse has been as to why you keep waiting to feel ready rather than doing the thing you want to be doing.